If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of The Property Rebel with your host Arsh Ilahi. And in today's session, what we're going to actually be looking at is the most strategic will be the most successful. Now, I know that sounds quite straightforward, but we're actually going to break it down. And I hate saying this, but in unprecedented times like we're in right now, the people who are the most strategic, the ones that are the most creative, will be the ones that win out of this pandemic. So before we go any further, I want to say a quick hello to all new subscribers, new listeners. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. Feel free to watch and listen to as many episodes, just so that you know. This podcast is recorded on a one-take session so that we will get some ifs, ums and ahs and maybe even some long pauses. But don't worry guys, this is all part of it. I've got some notes in front of me, so if you do hear a bit of rustling, it's just me referring through to the notes. So as I record this, we've literally, well, we're not out of lockdown, but we're on the brink of coming out of lockdown. And I've seen over the last 4, 8 or even 12 weeks some of the opportunities that are coming our way. And I'm so grateful that I've been in a position where I know so many of the different property strategies which allow me to make the correct decision when I'm acquiring a property. And I'm going to give you a few examples of this. So one of my sayings is that the most strategic will be the most successful. And if I was going to put it in a different way, the person that has the most tools in the toolbox will be the one that gets a job. Now, I'll be showing you I'll be explaining different deals that I've done and how, because I've managed to look at it from a different angle, I've been able to create a real win-win scenario with the vendor. And specifically for today's session, I'll be talking to you about a land deal that when I say I'm on the brink, we've literally got heads of terms agreed. We're about to go into legals and I'll tell you through the way that I've structured it. So just before lockdown, lady approaches me. She goes that my kids have fled the house. Now there's just me. My husband passed away, and she's not old, but let's just say she's worldly, or she's quite wise. That's probably the best way of saying it without offending anyone. If you're old, you're not old, but you're wise. Right, okay. That's way of describing it anyway. So she came to me, she goes, this house is far too big for me now. And I was expecting her to say that she had a 4/5 bedroom house. In actual fact, she lives in a 9-bedroom house. And I thought, well, first of all, okay, 9 bedrooms, yes, potentially I could utilize that as quite a large HMO. But when I actually went to visit the property, and remember this was before lockdown, so it was all social distancingly safe. And I went and viewed it, and it sat on a huge plot of land, pretty much the best part of an acre. And I said to her, okay, so what's your reason for sale? She goes, I don't really need the money. The house is completely paid off. I'm in no real rush. I'm looking to try and achieve a decent price. And as a result of that, I'd like to try and do a deal with someone. And I thought, okay. I said, just out of curiosity, if someone came to you and said that they would be looking to acquire your property, but it may take them approximately 12 months, would that deter you? And she goes, no, not necessarily, but the money has to be right. She goes, I've had lots of people come round and try to offer me a below market value deal. So if the house was worth approximately 700,000 to 800,000, they'd be offering her, circa 500,000 to 600,000. And she goes, I'm not desperate for the money. However, I don't want to give this property away either. And I said to her, okay, I'm looking at this from a slightly different angle. And I said, I'm looking at this potentially from a development angle. She goes, yes. She goes, whilst my husband was alive, she goes, we did possibly look at a development angle. And just so that you know, this house, as a 9-bed house, it also has 6 flats attached to it. So it was, at one point, it must have been something like a care home. It's a huge property sitting on a huge plot. And I said to her, okay, that's interesting. So we've got 6 flats. They're currently generating roughly around £500 per flat each, which means that it's giving her an income of £3,000, which basically means that she's living there completely free. And I thought that's a phenomenal way. And, you know, I've got a lot of respect for this lady. So I said to her, I'd like to look at this opportunity where we're on a point where I get an option on the property. I will then instruct my architect and I will go off and get planning permission on the land. So in essence, what we're doing now is called a subject to planning deal. I will purchase the property subject to me getting planning permission. And she goes, okay. She was a little bit worried to start with, and I had to spell it out to her. She goes, Arsh, what does that mean? And I said, well, I'm now going to employ my architect. I'm now going to start spending money on the property. I will require an option on this land for a minimum of 12 months. You said that you're in no rush to go anywhere, so that kind of fits in with that. And as a result of that, if we fixed the price today, you said that the land or the house with the land and the flats, you want circa £700,000. I will offer you the full £700,000 based on the fact that I can go off and I can get the option on the land so that you can't go and sell it anywhere else or anything like that. It's all tied in with solicitors. I will then go off and get planning permission. Now, when I say I reckon, we're going to put in a scheme for the best part of 30 to 40 apartments on this scheme. So we've got 2 schemes. We've got one with less apartments. So it's a mixed use. So some apartments, so the best part 20 apartments and potentially 8 detached houses. Or we're going to go for a large scheme of circa 40 apartments on the site. So we've pretty much got 2 angles here. So when we talk to the council, we could say, guys, okay, what's your appetite for this area? Tell us what you'd like to build. I'll tell you what we'd like to build and let's come to a compromise. That's how I always do it when it comes to planning. I don't literally just go in and say, here's my application for 40 apartments. They'll say, that's great, Mr. Ilahi, but we're actually only going to give you 12 apartments. That's not how we operate. So I've got a very good and a very strategic architect who literally, we go and consult with them first. We tell them initially what we're thinking, so we don't put the application. They come back to us with some initial feedback, pretty much like a pre-planning application, but without actually putting in the application. We liaise with the planners. Now, I appreciate that not all local authorities are probably quite as open and forthcoming as Wolverhampton. As I've been doing this for 20 years, I know all the planners. I know pretty much what their parameters are, what they can and what they can't do. I know a lot of them pretty much on first names terms, and I can pick up the phone to them and say, guys, okay, here's what I'm looking at. Can you tell me roughly what you think? And this is the kind of relationship that you want to build with your planners. So we've already had this consultation with the architect and the planners before we make the offer formal to the vendor. So I've gone back to the vendor on the basis that I think we can get between 30 and 40 apartments. Even if they knock back the apartment scheme, I reckon we can get 20 apartments and 8 houses, which is going to give us a decent level of profit. We reckon the scheme is going to be worth circa £3 million. Now, on the basis that we get planning, if we get planning for the apartments, so the way that we've structured the scheme is that pretty much the GDV, if you don't know what GDV means, it means gross development value. So the gross development value will be approximately £3 million. Now, based on the fact that we're offering her 700,000, which is the full market value for the house as it stands, she will get full market value. So let's have a look at the benefits here. She will get full market value for her property. Tick. Appreciate the fact that she's going to give you approximately 12 to 24 months to get the planning. Now, from my point of view, this makes it completely risk-free. When I say risk-free, yes, I'm going to have to employ an architect. However, if you look at it in reverse, what happens if she didn't give me the option and she says, Arsh, you buy the house, whatever you do with it thereafter is completely up to you. I could get lumbered with a £700,000 house, and then what happens if planning permission gets refused? What's my plan B? Yes, I've got 6 houses, but they're not worth £700,000. So I'm stuck with quite a large liability, not an asset. So here we're creating a real win-win. She's getting full market value for a property. She's given us some time. She's still generating the income from the property whilst I've got the asset, because I don't, technically speaking, own it. I've got literally an element of control over the asset. We're now going to employ an architect. We're now going to start submitting plans to the planning department. Off the back of that, we'll get planning permission. So bear in mind that on average, it's around £500 per dwelling. So if we're going in for 30 to 40 units, 40 times £500, so it's going to be around 20 to 30,000 that we're speculating on this deal. But based on the fact that we've got plans A, B and C, we can't really go wrong with this. Now, on the basis that planning permission is granted with a scheme that is circa the gross development value of around £3 million, we reckon that that site is going to be worth circa around £1 million. Now, from that point, I've got two options. I can either build the site out as a developer, should I wish to. Now, just bear in mind that we've got the option for circa 12 to 24 months. At the moment, as it stands, we're currently in a bit of a difficult time when it comes to property and marketplace, because we're currently going through a mini peak, but we're expecting a trough anytime now. What's going to happen? So by the time I've got planning, I pretty much expect us to be fully in recession mode, which means that we've still got lots of time to sit on the land whilst the market recovers. So we've got two options. We can either build it out, or B, we can literally sell the site or pass on the option to another house builder and generate a profit from the planning gain. So this is what is called a planning gain angle. This is the thing that I would love to do. So get planning permission and literally sell it. We've already potentially started speaking to people who are interested in the site, subject to us getting a certain amount of units. So we've already lined up our exit as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. We don't give them all the details. We're secure on the site. We've got legal option on the site, which means that no one can come and approach the vendor. And as a result of that, what we're saying is that here's a location, here's what we think we're going to get, here's what we think the gross development value is, here's what we're after for it. Are you interested? Yes or no? Give us some form of expression of interest. Now, if we've got the option agreed at circa 700,000, we're looking for approximately £1 million, bearing in mind that it's going to cost us between £20,000 to £30,000 to get all the planning documents done and professional fees, etc. Off the back of that, we should clear approximately £250,000. So approximately £250,000 to £300,000 without actually owning the land and simply controlling it and maximising the site accordingly. Worst case scenario, we don't sell the site, we build it out, and then we've got the option, because there's lots of meat on the bone, we've got the option of either building it out and keeping it for rental purposes, or we can then dispose of the site and sell them off house by house as a normal developer would. So these are one of the reasons why I said the most strategic will win. Now let's face it, if she didn't want to do that and she wanted to put her house on the market right now, how many people are looking to buy a 9-bed house pretty much on the brink of recession? Not many, I would imagine. Yes, there are some houses selling, but this is not a straightforward house. It's 9-bedroom house with 6 flats attached. So would there really be would there be an appetite for someone to buy the house with 6 flats? Would you want to live next door to 6 flats that you own, where you potentially got tenants knocking on your door? So we've looked at all angles. What we've also looked at, even if we were to acquire the site and we bought it outright for £700,000 today, we looked at what the holding costs and the funding costs would be, and it would be less than £3,000, which is the income that it's currently generating. However, in order for us to do that, we would have to put out the best part of £350,000, where the bank would potentially lend us 50%. We would have to then put in the other 50%. Plus we've got stamp duty, plus we've potentially got arrangements costs, we've got solicitors costs, etc. Here we get exactly the same outcome with very little input. Does that make sense? Our input, so we've got an option on the land for £1. So it's costing us £1 to put the option on the land. We're paying some legal costs. Obviously, we're instructing solicitors. So let's say that that's costing us approximately £2,000, and then we've got the planning costs. So from that point of view, it's perfect and lots of developers do this. This is how house builders acquire the land. You don't think that they go out and buy everything unconditionally. They buy it conditional to planning or a level of development being granted. So hopefully guys, that's that's give you a bit of an indication or a strategic method as to how to acquire property, especially now if you've seen a large building sat on a large plot of land. Now's the perfect time to approach them. Let's face it, they're not going to sell it anytime soon, especially as we fall into recession. The same can be done with commercial buildings. I find that subject to planning deals works really well on commercial buildings, because commercial buildings will potentially be owned either by hedge funds or a level of a fund or a commercial landlord, and they kind of understand the commerciality of the process of a subject to planning deal or putting an option to purchase on the property. If you were to go to a landlord or if you were to go to a homeowner and ask them for an option, they may not really understand it, or it will take a lot more of a conversation, and the landlord may want to run that past their solicitor, and their solicitor may then try to deter them away from it because they don't actually understand it. With commercial buildings, chances are they've got a commercial solicitor who will kind of understand exactly what you're trying to do. And if not, you put them in contact with your commercial solicitor who will show them the option documents, who will then clarify it for them as well. So you're educating them along the way. I can talk to you about, over the next few sessions, different ways as to how to acquire property strategically. There are lots of things that you can do. For argument's sake, we can talk about rent to rent. We can talk about lease options, where you take the option over a period of time. We can talk about exchange and delayed completions. I can give you an example of about a property that we've recently done in Stockton-on-Tees, where we've delayed the completion for 5 to 7 years. So there are lots of ways. So you don't have to always buy the property outright. One thing I would say is keep as much money in your bank as possible so that you can use it for a rainy day or to acquire more property. There's going to be lots of opportunities out there where you can control and maximize on the asset without having to physically fund it all yourself. So guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that session. Hopefully you found it of great use. If you like the thought of that, please feel free to listen to some of the other podcasts. More importantly, I've got a very active YouTube channel. Feel free to search for Arsh. I've got hundreds of videos on YouTube where we kind of go through some of the other strategic angles, and we launch a new video every Thursday. Finally, I would like to invite you to download my Property Investor app. So it's called Property Investor, and it's the UK's first property investment platform which showcases all kinds of different property investment deals. So we've got below market value deals, we've got rent to rent deals, we've got lease option deals, we've got commercial deals, we've got land deals, we've got service accommodation, just to name a few. And it's all in the palm of your hand. You can either visit www.propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or you can actually go to the App Store on your smartphone. Whether you've got an Android phone, you go to your Google Play Store, or if you're on an Apple or iOS device, you go to the App Store and type in Property Investor. It takes you approximately 2 minutes to register, and you'll see approximately 200 deals there for you, ready and waiting. And we've got some deals that are approximately 30 to 40% below market value, and it's all free for you to do that. So guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that session. As always, I wish you all to remain safe and well, and I'll speak to you all on the next session. Bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.